All right, everybody. So, what's going on? I'm Dr. Moser here over at Structure Chiropractic Wellness Way in Pittsburgh, and this is my lovely wife.
Megan, hi.
So, today we're going to be going over something that I know Megan has been very passionate about. And obviously, we're going to be talking more and more in depth with statistics. A lot of emotion wrapped up in this episode, but we're going to be incredibly raw. Almost going to guarantee we're going to tick some people off,
Probably.
which is totally fine with me, especially virtual. You can't really do much except leave us a bad review, in which case that's fine. We don't really care either. I saw Annie just tuned in here too, so we'll say hi to Annie before I go through who I'm introducing again. Myself, we have Megan, and I have a little baby Hoyt in the caption here too. He's down below, so if you hear some weird gurgles or something like that, he just fed, so he's all good.
He's
Uh,
passing out a little bit down here, so.
yeah, and good morning, Heather, as well. Heather's awesome. She likes and shares a lot of our stuff. So does Andy, too, which is probably why you're able to see this broadcast as soon as we popped on. So I'm going to kick it off here and basically pass it off to Megan and let her tell you a little bit more about what she wants to be passionate about today.
Yeah. So, as the title said, we're actually going to talk about our birthing story. And then I actually want to dig in a little bit more today about C-sections. So, to tell you guys about our story in general, going back probably about 4.5, almost 5 years ago, I had a surgery done. I had a fibroid tumor done. You can see his little arm. Down around my uterus, and I decided to have it taken out. Well, yeah, sure. When I talked to my surgeon at the time,
Little baby Hoyt.
we had both discussed that my ovaries, my uterus, everything would be preserved. So when the time came that I was to find Mr. Right, which I found him not too long after, we would be
real soon
fine.
after,
Yeah, we would be fine having babies. It may be a little bit of a struggle, but we would be perfectly fine having children. So fast forward to July 30th, we had this little guy. But yeah, 10-7. But before that, backing it up, so we found out we were pregnant, and we started looking for people to work with us. I mean, being a first-time mom, obviously it's super scary. We have very different viewpoints than mainstream does. So I was really struggling to find somebody who would work with us in a way that I felt comfortable, that I felt like they would understand and respect our wishes. And we had found out that in Pittsburgh, they have, it's called the Pittsburgh Midwife Center, and they're actually supposed to be like really well known. They've grown tremendously. So we went to the orientation and we liked what they had to say. And I asked them right off the bat, and I said, hey, I had the surgery done. Is that going to prevent me from being able to give birth in your center? Because they were talking about anybody who is high risk would not be allowed. They'd automatically have to go to the hospital, which is how they kept their numbers so high, by the way, is they never accepted anybody who wasn't a perfect person
You
for this.
sneezed
Yeah.
while you were there. It was like you were high risk.
Absolutely. It was ridiculous. And I didn't really clue into that until a little while later, but that's why their numbers were so high. So we went to the orientation. They said everything was fine. And then I went to my first appointment with them where they drew blood and they did all this stuff. And the blood draw was ridiculous. Like, they tested nothing. I wish I had known, because obviously I would have had Dr. Jock here write me up a script of stuff I actually needed to know, and I could have gotten more answers. But they did a stupid blood draw, and then, talked up a storm. Well, right before I went to that appointment, I had actually been rear-ended. And so I was about 8 weeks pregnant. So we decided to go get an ultrasound done, because everybody knows that first trimester is extremely crucial. You just want to be really safe. I'm not a huge fan. We're not a huge advocate for ultrasounds, but in certain instances, absolutely, you want to get, checked out. So we went and got an ultrasound done, and
St. Margaret's Hospital.
yeah, and they came in and they were like super serious, and they were like, I just want to tell you everything is fine except for your baby's heart rate is really low. And it was supposed to be at they told us 120 or something like that, or no, it was probably even less than that, but they told us that it was at 60. And then she came back 5 minutes later and was like, oh, I'm sorry, it's still really low, but it was at 109 or something, I don't know. And then I was like, okay, well, what do we do? Well, she went back out and came back in, no joke, 5-10 minutes later, and told us, I'm sorry, we misread the numbers and your baby's heart rate is actually at 160 and it's perfectly fine. So that was my start in my faith in, hospitals and everybody who is going to be backing us up. So I had brought that information to the midwife center. So they had that. They had my surgery history. And it took them like 2 or 3 appointments before they actually contacted us and said, hey, we looked through your notes here and you are considered high risk. We're not going to be able to be with you at the birth. However, we'll work with you throughout, but we won't be there at the birth, which is so stupid to me. So I said, nope, that's fine. We're done with you guys. We went over to McGee because everybody told us that they were like the midwife center. However, they were located in a hospital, so they were more willing to work with us. And, I'm sorry, before I even go to McGee, the midwife center said they didn't understand our paperwork and told me that I should schedule a C-section because they didn't understand the paperwork. Not that I was high risk, whatever, just didn't understand. So we go to McGee and I have an appointment. I walk in, I said, hey, we're very natural people, we're holistic. The first thing I want you guys to not talk about is we don't want medication or shots of any kind. First question she asked us is, do you want a flu shot? Are you kidding me? This is how we're going to start out this situation. So,
Pap smear.
Yeah, and a pap smear. She was really adamant about that pap smear. I mean, it was ridiculous. She got a little too much about it. So we go through the appointment. I give her the paperwork as well. She reads through it. This is a hospital, mind you, and she says, I don't understand your paperwork. We should schedule you for a C-section. I was like, again, are you kidding me? Nobody is looking through this stuff. Nobody's saying that, okay, I see here that they did X, Y, and Z. This is why we should plan for this or even consider, mentally prepping that this could be an option. It was, nope, right off the bat, I don't get it. So let's just make it easy and schedule you for a C-section. Well, obviously we were not happy about that. I think both of us actually were furiously storming out of that place. So I was panicking because at that point we were close to 20 weeks, I think. Somewhere around 20 weeks. And I was like, I'm not much of a planner, but in certain instances like this, which is a really huge life-changing ordeal, I'm kind of a bit of a planner. So I wanted to know who we were working with. So I was freaking out because we didn't know anybody. We had no options. And fortunately, God blessed us with a person in our life, another chiropractor actually. And his sister had just worked with Jennifer Nelson of the Pittsburgh Midwives, which is not the Midwife Center, completely different. So we went and we met with her, and she had actually been an RN for about 18, 19 years, I think she said. And then she decided to switch over. She had seen what, the midwifery could do for people. She decided to switch over, and she was actually going to go to a school for it, but found out that was actually very medical minded. So she ended up finding another super professional. Her name is Mary Beth.
Flynn.
And and she ended up actually personally training under her, which was awesome. So she got my paperwork and she understood it to a T and was able to explain to me
2 seconds.
Yeah, in 2 seconds what it meant, the fact that they did not touch my ovaries, they did not touch my uterus, and they did not cut all the way through the muscle. Therefore, my body was strong enough, as long as I did what she said, to be able to have a natural birth the way we wanted to. And she was very open-minded to the fact which made me feel comfortable in the fact where she said, there's always issues that come up. In worst case scenario, I have a backup plan for you, but we can do this as long as you just stick with me. So I was so, so, so happy. It said the video camera's on widescreen mode.
Hold up.
Oh,
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
heads
thank
up
you
there. Let me see what the heck I did. Options.
Let's see.
Annie, did that fix that problem? I just updated this software, so I'm not sure what all that is there. What do we got? How are we doing?
Fixing it.
Imagine that'd be it.
Yeah. Well, I'll continue here. So, basically, she understood everything that nobody else could tell us and understand. And she made us feel very confident. She was literally everything that I had prayed for. I mean, she knew to a T what was going on. And she said, no, it didn't fix it.
No. Okay. Let's see. I'll work on that soon.
Okay.
As long as try to be centered.
Yeah. So we started working with her, And
It is just like
do I need to move over?
yeah.
So we started working with her, and we're really happy that she was able to respond. And she actually was kind of more of a support system for me in this process, because not too long after we started working with her, I got another phone call actually from the doctor who did my surgery. I remember I was actually at Whole Foods and shopping around, and he calls me, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "I was shocked you got pregnant." Now, this is the man who sat down with me, with my mother included, and said, "I preserved everything. You will not have a problem getting pregnant. It might just take a second or two, but you should not have a problem." This man calls me and says, "I was shocked you got pregnant, and if I was the one working with you, I would schedule you at a C-section at 37 weeks, just so you know." And then he proceeds to tell me that if I do not, my uterus will explode. So this gets back to my family. It gets back to, some friends of ours. They start contacting us and just freaking out. Nobody really understood what was going on. Obviously, you hear the words, your uterus is going to explode. Your mind starts going a little nuts too. So I went back to Jen, and she was really just very confident. She understood what they were talking about and that it was a little more dramatic than what they were saying. But she really worked with us just mentally as well through this process, because when you have so much negativity around you, my focus was so strong on what my goals were at the end of this. I wanted to have Hoyt naturally, and I wanted to have him at home, not just for our principles, but I am deathly afraid of hospitals to begin with. It's very uncomfortable to me. It's very cold, which in my mind would just prolong the birth. Whereas if you're in a comfortable, safe environment, it's warm, it's loving, you've got this positive energy, that's going to make anything so much easier, and you're going to feel stronger in that moment and feel like you can do anything. So she was really a massive support system for me. And I actually reached out to Christy Flynn as well, Dr. Flynn's wife, because she's done this 4 times now. And she actually had a very similar story where she was told that, she couldn't get pregnant, and they did very specific testing on her, and she was able to, and she did it naturally at home. So she was another really big support system. And I just really surrounded myself around people like that who could bring us up rather than pull us down, because I think in this process nowadays, it's so easy to surround yourself around people who, it's so common for people to have C-sections. I mean, we went to, it was a birthday party, a 1-year-old birthday party, and I was pregnant at the time. And every single person I talked to in there, nobody had a natural birth. It was more common to talk about the horrific, crazy births that happened to them. And it was like a competition. I had this happen, and I had that happen, and then I had to have an emergency C-section. And it was just crazy to me that not one person was able to sit there and say, "You know what? I was able to have my baby the way I wanted to, and I felt strong, and I was able to just do this naturally." Because God did not make mistakes, y'all. There are going to be, do not get me wrong, there are going to be instances where women do absolutely need to have an emergency C-section. And God bless the people in the medical industry who can save those women. But it does not need to be as common as it is. So I was so happy when I finally learned to just shut out and tune out those negative Nancys who were telling me all the horror stories, who were telling me that I needed to have a C-section, that I was not going to be able to do this naturally. And you know what? That pissed me off the most, because that was taking away my decision. I at that point, I felt like I had no decision. Someone was taking away one of the most important decisions of my life. And I'm a very independent person, so I did not like that at all. And I actually got to the point where I did not read any books. I did not read up on anything. I think for maybe the first few weeks when we found out we were pregnant, we got excited, and I found the Natural Mama, I think is what she's called, or Mama Natural or something, and I read those books just to figure out what was going on with this growing process. But I did not read up on any parenting things, any of that stuff, because I didn't agree with a lot of the stuff I was finding. And I did do the apps though, and I found, even with the apps, I stopped reading half that stuff. I only looked at what they said his supposed size was, which clearly my child was 10'7", so it was way off. But it was just kind of cute to see him grow in size wise. But there was one day where I came across, I don't know if it was on the Bump app or Baby Center app, and it said take this quiz to figure out your rate of or your chance of having a C-section. So as a joke, I decided, this was when I was in a better mindset, I decided to take this little quiz, right? I put in my name and my zip code. And then all of the other questions was like high blood pressure, diabetes, all this stuff. I put no's for, which was the truth. I had no's for. At the end of it, I had a 56% chance of having a C-section. Y'all, I put in my name and my zip code, and they told me 56% chance. That is ridiculous. That is super, super sick to me. So we actually we're mentally preparing for anything to happen, obviously. I mean, we're getting closer and closer. And then I think one of the best feelings in the world to me was when 37 weeks came. We were having our regular checkups with our midwife, and he and I were both doing awesome, like perfectly fine. And then we got to 38 weeks and still doing awesome. And when we hit 39 weeks, I was like ecstatic because I had beat what people had told me I wasn't going to be able to do. And then, sorry. It was just really hard at that time. But then we hit 40 weeks and it was amazing. My water broke at 11 o'clock on his due date. And I started having contractions almost immediately after. And we called my midwife and let her know. And she was like, just try to go back to bed. You're going to be fine. I Googled it and it said, you have 12 to 24 hours after your water breaks before you go into labor. Well, I went in within 15 minutes. And for the first hour, I think I had 3 contractions in 25 minutes. And then all of a sudden, they started going every 2 minutes. And they last like 5 minutes long. And I'd have a quick breather. And they just kept going. And at 10 o'clock the next morning, I had my little boy, and I remember the most powerful moment of my life was when I felt his head coming out, and I knew at that moment I had just beat the odds of what they told me I couldn't do, and I was so much stronger, and I knew that there were so many women in my position who did not have the support system that I did, who didn't have the talent that my midwives did to be able to go through and experience that moment. And when I held him in my arms, I mean, that was just absolutely amazing. And he's perfectly healthy. I mean, he's 10'7". He was, how long was he? Like 23 inches. I had basically a toddler. So he did an incredible job. I mean, we have been so blessed with him. And he had no vaccinations, no vitamin K, no iGoop, none of that stuff that, again, they tell you that you need to have. And he is like one of the healthiest, happiest babies, eats a ton. I'm a little concerned that we're going to have a 5-year-old here in a couple months. But I mean, he's been a total blessing. And it just, like I said, at that moment, it was such mixed emotions because I felt so strong, so powerful. And I knew that there were women out there who could do this. But the coolest part about it is already we've had a couple people who were thinking about, they were due, and they were thinking about having their baby at least with an epidural, and they chose not to. And they did do it in the safety of a hospital, and you know what, to each their own. I just knew personally I did not feel comfortable doing it there. And they did it without an epidural, and they had that baby natural, and they both said, I felt not only powerful, but I felt better. I mean, you have that child and you don't feel groggy, you feel strong, you feel comfortable. And the baby is so much healthier and so much more alert and aware of life. And it was really cool to hear that too, that we were able to kind of get them to look at another perspective and give them that power that I felt as well, to be able to say, I did this. I totally pushed out a baby, and the pain was not that bad. I remember the hardest part was getting his shoulders out, and the pain is not that bad, y'all. So if you're thinking about it, if you're on the edge of, should I get the epidural, even if you're going for natural birth, like, should I go for epidural or should I do this natural? I am telling you right now, like, yeah, I have a pretty high pain tolerance, but the pain is not that bad. It's more, for me, the struggle was the fact that I didn't get breathers in between my contractions. I'd get like 20 or 30 seconds and they just kept coming. But the overall pain of it was really not that bad. And on a funny note, I had, me being the planner that I was, I had planned on having this birth in our bedroom. We had a pool. I had my affirmations all over our bedroom walls. And I had him in our kitchen. So that was pretty neat. But yeah, he's doing pretty awesome. He's probably hungry again because he's hungry every 5 seconds.
I figured out what was wrong with the video too, by the way.
Oh, awesome.
But I can't fix it unless you go out and come back in.
Yeah, so that was kind of our birth story. And I just wanted to share that with you guys because, again, we went through so much constant negative, especially in the beginning. I was also working in a very stressful atmosphere, so I was really nervous about that as well. But we went through so many negative hoops and doubts and just fears. And if I didn't have the support system, and if I also didn't have that one thing that I focused on, like me having him at home was so important to me that no matter what, I was not going to change that situation. So I guess one word of advice is what does his onesie say? What does it say again?
Super cute little dude.
Super cute little dude. That's a cute pic. So just focus on something that is really important to you. And it will get you through that, because no matter what anybody else said, once I hit a certain point mentally, no matter what anybody told me, I was having him at home. And we had backup plans, but I was having him at home. So I wanted to share that story with you guys. And then this is kind of where Jock and I are going to talk a little bit and go off on C-sections, because what made me so sad, not only with the fact that people were telling me that I had no other option, that I was supposed to have a scheduled C-section at 37 weeks, was the fact that we've known about 10 women in the past year who have had babies. And out of those 10 women, including myself actually, out of those 10 women, 3 of us have been able to have that baby naturally. Everybody else was rushed into an emergency C-section. And then the reason I put that in air quotes is because they were told afterwards that it was more just like a precautionary thing. Like they probably could have done it, but we decided it would just be easier to put you in for an emergency C-section. Or they didn't have people who were confident in what they were doing. I mean, when I was having Hoyt, I had 2 midwives there. It was Mary Beth and I had Jen. Mary Beth is due actually like any day now. She's super pregnant. So she was laying on the floor and I was not stretched enough to be able to handle his shoulders. So every contraction, she was stretching me gently. So I had a 10-pound, 7-ounce child naturally and no tearing because of her, because she knew what to do and how to do it. And I think that the big problem right now is people aren't confident in that, even with VBACs. Like that is such a doable thing, depending on what your C-section was like before and what your body is doing now, obviously. But it's such a doable thing, but not many people are confident enough to do it. So they just tell you you need a scheduled C-section. It's just right off the bat nowadays. That is what it is. And so I was trying to find research on the percentage and the rates of C-sections now. And the only research that I could get set in stone was back in 2015. So at that time, they were saying 1 in 3 women in 2015, 1 in 3 women were getting scheduled for C-sections. I mean, that's crazy. In 2018, I can promise you that the numbers are going to come out even higher, which is just absolutely devastating to me because, again, it breaks my heart that women aren't going to be able to get the chance to feel that power that I felt giving birth to him. And then I was also looking at, there was a survey that was done. It was through leapfroggroup.org. Now, they only tested, it was like 1,800 hospitals that were voluntary. They said that it was more than willing to do it. And out of that, they found out that out of all the C-sections that were being done at those hospitals, 55% of them were excessive, meaning that they did not need to be done. They just did them to do them. It just blows my mind. Like, how can someone feel comfortable enough to tell a woman and take that opportunity away from a woman to be able to do what God intended and just say it's easier for us if we just schedule you for a C-section. I mean, does that not make everybody else mad? Like that, it just infuriates me. I can't believe that, because again, I am so independent, and I know there are women out there like that too. And to be told that you can't do something, like, oh, that just makes me so mad. And then I was digging a little deeper, and I saw that they are trying to, because C-sections are so popular, they're trying to normalize them. Now, again, I want to go back and tell you guys, before I even get into this, I was telling Jock this the other day too. I have heard so many times where they're telling women, do not feel bad about having a C-section. Don't feel guilty about having a C-section. Girls who have had C-sections, I am telling you right now, don't feel bad about it. And nobody should even be telling you this. You guys should be the ones who are just mad. If you're going to feel anything, feel mad that people are constantly telling you that your only option is a C-section, and that it's a common thing, and they're normalizing this. So I am so sick and tired of seeing, like, don't feel guilty or bad or whatever. No, you shouldn't feel guilty or bad. I mean, you were a rock star, you had that baby, and these people are the ones that you should be just mad at. Like, they did not give you an option, and that's ridiculous to me. So I was Googling some stuff, and it said, in efforts to start normalizing these C-sections that are becoming so ridiculously popular, they now have two different terms that they're using. And one is a gentle C-section, and one is a natural C-section. So from what I found when I was looking at it, they were saying a gentle C-section is basically where they're creating the environment I had it at the house. Like, so
Trying to create the environment at the house.
So it's supposed to be like the ambiance is nice, the music is what you want, like just a happy-go-lucky atmosphere, which again I totally appreciate, because C-sections are very traumatic on not only the mom but on the baby as well. So if they're gonna make them so popular, I mean, you might as well try to calm the mom down a little bit and feel comfortable. But the fact that they're trying to normalize this is where I'm getting mad at. And then the natural C-section is that they're trying to resemble a natural birth, where you can actually watch the process of your baby being born, which I don't know about that. I'd probably pass out. And then immediately do skin to skin, which, again, you and I both know, especially when it comes to that kind of a surgery and stuff, because they're so traumatic, because they're so high risk, which I'll say something here in a minute on that. And because there's such a high rate of infections happening after, and issues happening to the baby, like asthma, and even infections on the baby, the skin to skin thing is not going to last very long. They're going to take that baby into the back as soon as possible to do the whole checkups, do the ointments, do the injections, all that stuff. So they're trying to say that you can have an option of having a natural C-section, but nothing about that is going to be natural. At the end of the day, it's still going to be traumatic on the mom. It's still going to be traumatic on the baby. Your recovery is still going to be ridiculously traumatic. Like, I know for me personally, after like day 2 of sitting there with my baby, loving on him, getting to know him, I was going stir crazy, because I felt good and I felt strong again. And I know it takes you a while after, I mean, I still had the fibroid surgery. It took me a while to come out of that and feel good again and feel strong and feel woozy. Not feel woozy, I mean. So they're trying to normalize all this stuff, and it just, at the end of the day, it's not going to normalize anything at all. And then another thing I thought was funny was these doctors kept telling me that I was high risk, right? I was high risk from a surgery I had done. However, they were willing, because I was high risk, they were willing to do a high risk surgery on me. That to me, I don't know if it's confusing to y'all too, but that to me was like one of the most confusing things out of this whole process is I was too high risk to do this naturally, but yet you will risk my life and put me under, and my baby's life, to do this surgery because it's easier for you at the end of the day. That's basically what they're telling you. So that was kind of like my notes on that. I know I'm going to let Dr. Moser kind of jump in here on his thoughts and stuff, but like I said, I thought it was really important to share our story and let you guys know that this, I mean, we live this natural lifestyle. You guys see, you know, on Instagram, on Facebook, everything's pretty, everything's perfect. But behind the scenes, there was a lot of stress. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of fear, especially being a new mom and hearing a million different things. And if it wasn't for the people who we surrounded ourselves by, and if it wasn't for the support system, I mean, honestly, I don't know if we would have made it as far. All I know is that at the end of the day, my mindset was like it was set. I was having this child,
Made up mind.
yeah, with or without the midwife center or with or without McGee Center. Like if we had to figure out and Google it how to have this baby at home by ourselves, that was what was going to happen, because I was not about to do all this other stuff to my child when I knew deep in my heart that we could do it the way we actually ended up doing it. So, yeah.
So first off, I'll address everyone. First off, thank you for being on here and listening to the story. I know she got emotional about it. This is one of the reasons why we wanted to do this video, is because this is something that is incredibly passionate to her. Not to make her potentially cry again, because if she goes, I'm going to go. You're going to have a bunch of crying babies. The other thing too is with this video, I accidentally shot it in 360 mode. So I think I don't know if that thumbs up and the hearts were for the incorrect filming of this video, but I'm pretty sure once this gets posted, you can go in the bottom corner from where I'm Googling. That's why I was going in and out of the room, and you can turn off the 360 mode, so that way our faces don't look like aliens. Otherwise, it's just going to turn into an MP3, and that's totally fine too. So basically, I mean, there's too many people going around, and just like the main reason why I got into doing cancer and doing work with cancer is because people were getting the hope taken away from them, and not by any other reason besides negligence on the doctor's behalf. I tried. I tried my hardest to think that there are good doctors out there, and I mean, every single time I say, "Oh yeah, trust them," or "Yeah, do what they say and see what happens," they come back, and the stuff that I hear from them is just absolutely unbelievable. So from cancer to having C-sections, it's just like it's like they prey on us for our fear. And I know that Tony Robbins talks about pain and pleasure principle, and pain is a much more powerful motivator than pleasure. So nobody likes to be uncomfortable. Nobody likes to confront or tell the doctor, maybe I don't want to do this, because they're afraid of getting fired as a patient, or they're afraid that they might be wrong, or they're afraid that they don't have enough information. Well, easy for me to say. The bottom line is people need to start trusting their guts. They need to start trusting their logic, their intuition, and make the decisions that will help them ultimately sleep at night. I mean, our kid is head and shoulders, not that it's a competition, but it kind of is. Our kid is head and shoulders above where most other kids are, from the clarity to his tracking to his strength in his freaking neck.
Oh my gosh, he is so strong.
Dude, we're going to weigh him today. He's probably close to 14 pounds, 13,
yeah.
14 pounds. Dude's a beast, and he's already holding his head up.
Yeah.
I mean,
and trying to crawl up our chest.
And trying to crawl. Yeah, I mean, the dude is just on top of it, and there's no developmental delays or lag with him. He'll cry if he needs something. Like right now, he's being a little putz. He needs to feed. My wife is being mean and depriving him of food. But I mean, really, there's a lot of negative things. You talk about the bacteria and stuff on?
No.
Okay. So I'll dive into a little bit more of my heady research nerdiness. So a lot of people will do C-sections because of ease. A lot of people will do them because they're scared that they're not going to be able to have a healthy kid. I mean, one of the worst things you can do to a wife or to a woman is threaten her life or threaten the life of her kids. I mean, you hear these feats where women can pick up cars underneath their children just to get them safe because they have this freaky strength. So if you go into a hospital and the hospital scares you enough into thinking that you're not going to be capable of delivering your child, there's so many, just like again with cancer, there's so many people we can think of who have had a miscarriage, or they've lost a baby, or they've had a stillborn. Any of those situations, they all push you into fear, and the fear is what you are not capable of doing. And God created you to be able to do anything that's out there. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but it's 100% true. So with C-sections, stop doing it for the ease of it and start standing up for yourself, because ultimately we're starting to develop sicker and sicker kids every single year. And that statistic is not going down. It's not going away. Our rate of cancer is 1 in 3. Diabetes is going up. It used to be adult onset diabetes. Now it's type 2 diabetes because kids are getting it. I mean, just any disease that's out there, kids are getting pummeled with it now, and then we're trying to figure out where it's coming from. Well, ultimately, our immune system is a dictator of our health. And if our immune system is down, or it's compromised from vaccines or from not having a vaginal birth, if we do not make the proper measurements or the proper maneuvers to boost the immune system as the baby's growing and developing, then we're going to have more and more sick children out there. So I know it sounds mean when I say it, but I'm sorry. If your kid seems healthy right now and you had a C-section and you didn't breastfeed and you formula fed, it's going to be a sick kid. And it's not because I'm trying to be rude. It's because the statistics say it. The medical research, the medical literature says it. If you Google it and you Google the risks, I mean, we did that in about 5 minutes before we jumped on live today. I mean, the health risk, the main one that we always talk about is going through the birthing canal, the vaginal canal. You're going to be getting the good bacteria that just coats that child. So that kid has an immune system to start right off the bat. And if we don't have skin-to-skin contact with our children right after birth, they're not going to be able to get those healthy bacteria. And in most hospitals, when you have a kid, they take your kid off to a cold room and inject it with a whole bunch of vaccines, and you don't have that skin-to-skin contact. So not only did you weaken the immune system because you didn't get that skin-to-skin, but they went and weakened the immune system by giving all kinds of toxins and aluminum and mercury. And who knows if your kid has an egg allergy. Hopefully they don't, because a lot of vaccines have egg albumin in them. And then hopefully you're not pro-life, because vaccines were created with aborted fetal cells. A lot of them are. So you're kind of contradicting yourself. So there's a lot of different things that are out there that, again, starts our kid off in a hole or in a rut. So we need to be aware of these things. We need to stick up for ourselves, and we need to know that there are other options out there, because if we don't if we don't stand up for ourselves and make these proper choices, we're going to continue to spend more and more and more money on sick care. And I talked with Megan about this. We were on I was on the way to my fantasy football draft on Saturday. She was on the way to my parents'. And we were talking back and forth about this exact situation. And if you think about it, this is a brilliant money scheme for medicine and for pharmaceuticals. And again, this is going to sound like a slant that I'm trying to slander people or whatever. I don't give a shit, really. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't. Because if you think about it, when you go through and you get pregnant, okay, and you go to a hospital does not see it as a blessing. They see it as a disease, or they see it as a symptom, and their goal is to get that symptom out of your body. They don't treat it as a human being. So they're going to hit you with flu shots, they're going to hit you with DTaP, they're going to hit you with other vaccines throughout your pregnancy, which is going to rack up a bill, okay? Our labor, delivery, classes, all that stuff, I think was under $3,000 for the healthiest kid I've ever seen in my entire life, okay? So they'll rack you up like that, and then you go into the hospital. You go to the hospital, and they say, oh, well, you 40 weeks, it's an average, which means you can go 42 weeks. But if you go over 40 weeks, they're saying, oh, we have to induce you, we have to give you a C-section, or else this baby's not going to be healthy. We need to make these moves now. Wrong. But what that's going to do is, create more money, because they're going to be able to charge the hell out of your insurance for it. And if you have a C-section, or if you have a premature baby, there are protocols set in play by your insurance company, not for your benefit, but for the benefit of them and for the hospital, so that they get paid a lot of money. So that's another way they're going to get more money. And then you don't have a healthy kid because, again, they didn't come out vaginally. You have, probably antibiotic usage, because pretty soon your kid's going to have ear infections, especially if they don't get adjusted. I adjusted Hoyt while he was still attached to my wife, to Megan, and you're creating sicker and sicker and sicker kids. So you're developing more consumers for pharmaceuticals if you go the normal medical route. And it's sad to say that. It's sad to think that, if I send somebody to the hospital, I have to do damage control afterwards. I mean, the things that they do to people, even to find the end result is, we don't really know what the hell's going on, but we're just going to blast you with blah, 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 whatever the standard protocol is, and it's still not going to freaking work. Or you can trust your immune system, you can trust your body to be able to heal from whatever it is. But I mean, really, the rate of C-section, I know you went over, probably it's 1 in 3. And
Yeah.
the statistics, being 1 in 3 is pretty sad. And we even see it as even worse than that, because, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but talk to people who have had, who've had a kid in the past year or so, besides Wellness Way people, because we're crazy, we have home births and healthy kids. Think about your people around you and try to come up with your own ratio, your own statistic of how many people have had a baby and have been told that they are high risk, they can't do it, they take all the power away from you. And then how are you supposed to feel as a freaking mom when you say you weren't strong enough to have this kid, but good luck handling this kid? So, it's
Honestly,
saddening.
something we're passionate about, and
Yeah.
it was really sad to see. So
It's saddening, and I know I'm talking way more than I thought to. I mean, 3 people that have had a C-section or natural birth. I mean, even crunchy people, all they have to do is plant one seed of doubt in your head, and then you're done. You're freaking done, because they can prey on that all day, every day. If you had, I joked around about having like a cough or like a sneeze and you're high risk, but I mean, for goodness sakes, they're testing your blood sugar by giving you a glucola drink that's loaded with shit. If you look at what's in that, I mean, the amount of inflammation that that's going to cause, and then you're taking in like 50,000 milligrams of carbohydrates. Of course, your freaking blood sugar is going to high, and of course, you're going to lean more towards gestational diabetes. Or you can stop eating like a fatty, and if you want to get your blood sugar tested, other ways you can do that too. But I mean, he came out 10-7, no worries about gestational diabetes. He's a freaking beast, and again, he's healthy as all get out. And so, really, the reason why we were doing this was because it is something we're super passionate about. But we want to try to get as many people to understand that you have the power inside of you to do whatever you set your mind to, whether it's having a kid. I mean, to think, this is another thing too, if you have a child and you don't believe in God, you're an idiot. How do you think that your body was able to create this individual inside of a woman's womb, which would have previously had no room in there? It made room, gave 10 fingers, 10 toes, left arm's the same size as the right hand the same size as the left, legs, all of that stuff.
All this little belly.
This whole package, okay? And you think that you think that a medical doctor knows more about your freaking kid than your body and than your God knows, then you're an idiot. You're setting yourself up for failure.
And I like what Annie just said here, because it's absolutely true, especially in these instances. No matter if you think you can or you can't, you're right. And that's absolutely true. And I believe actually Christy Flynn told me that as well when I was just in my fearful moment. And she was like, you know what? I believe that you can do this, but you have to decide that you can do this as well. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So long story long, because we always talk long. You should have known this if you tuned in. It's our curse. We talk a lot. Just imagine how it is in the house. But it's usually me. But anyway, so the reason we're doing this, share this message with other people. I'll try to figure out if I can make this video look a little bit nicer. I probably do look like an alien. If I'm moving my head around, you probably can't see me at all. It looks pretty terrible, copy-wise. But share this with them. And then the other thing as well is we're opening up questions for you guys. If you know people who are pregnant or who are thinking about getting pregnant, but they're scared of becoming a statistic, you can reach out to us. You can message us on our Facebook page, which you obviously know how to get to. Or you can email us, or you can call and contact any Wellness Way doc that's out there, because we all are congruent with what we believe in and what we do, and we all get the results across the entire country. So whether you live in Pittsburgh, even though we have a lot of patients come from Maryland, Ohio, Erie, Houston, we have some patients down there, Wyoming, we have patients all across the country. And the reason that we have so many patients is because of the medical system. So the medical system can keep screwing up all that they want, as long as you guys don't give up hope in yourselves. That's the only message we want to really push. So if we can help in any way, let us know, besides changing the video quality. But other than that, I hope you all have a very safe and wonderful Labor Day.
Yes.
We are going to get out of the office because we need to eat some food.
yes, we love you guys. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Bye guys.
See ya. Who says bye to in his drunken state?